Say, hey, I don't have much makeup on, so excuse my face. I hope everybody's doing good. Okay, I'm gonna point you back down on the canvas here while I'm typing on my computer. I'm gonna see if I can share this. I'm not sure if I can, but I'm gonna try. We're gonna paint a painting tonight, y'all. We're gonna have some fun. I decided to share how I do this so that you can see. Hopefully nobody will try to call me on my cell phone and mess this up that I'm filming live. I'm getting my stuff squared away here. I think this will show you enough of the canvas. About right there. Oh, this is going to be fun. So, here is what I have. I have an 8x10 ugly pour canvas. It's an acrylic pour I did in the last year. I even named it Spinal Tap because it looked like a brain on drugs. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun to do a lotus, because that was the lotus painting that I have in the auction right now that was so popular. I thought maybe people would like to see. Try to figure out how to get rid of that shadow there. Let's see here. My phone is kind of in the way. So what I've done is I printed out a lotus on my computer and I cut around the shape. This is the easiest way I can tell you how to do it. I put it down on my canvas in the center and I traced around it. When you have a dark canvas, you've got to go with something like a Sharpie. So I usually use a Sharpie. And I traced around the shape of the flower. And then I painted in multiple coats of white paint to cover up this darker background. Because if you put colors on top of a dark color, it's just going to be real transparent. It's not going to be as bright and vivid. So if I want white or a lot of color to show, I'm going to add a lot of white paint, layer it up and let it dry. And then I put a pale pink that I mixed together. I just mixed up my DecoArt white and I put a little bit of Flamingo in it. And I put a tiny little dot of black in it just to knock it down so it wasn't bright and in your face, because I want it just to be a really soft, pretty background. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this flower that I cut out, and what I've done is I've scribbled on, this is the old-fashioned way to transfer a design onto your canvas. Usually if it's a white background, it makes it super easy, but I can't see that pencil on this dark background, so that's why I paint in my white background first, or pink. It's now pink. So you scribble on the back of your canvas, on the back of your paper with pencil, and that puts carbon there, so you don't have to have tracing or carbon paper or anything like that special. And you lay it down, and I actually painted outside of the lines just to make it just a hair bigger. And then you get a ballpoint pen and you just go around and you press firmly and you trace the edges of those petals, okay? And we're not going to make this is not going to be a totally realistic looking lotus. I'm doing it kind of like the way I did the one that had 2 lotuses on it. It's going to be a little bit like a cloisonne effect, which is, really beautiful pottery and vases that are just so beautiful. They have a little bit of an Asian feel to them, and lotuses have an Asian feel to it. So I've just basically gone around and traced around the petals, and I'm not even going to really worry about that. I'll just do a little squiggly line there for my center part. So now, as you can see, there is pencil lines on my Lotus. So now I have my little coloring book page, or you want to call it a roadmap. When I teach tutorials, that's what I call it, is I call it my little roadmap. And then what I do is I come back with my permanent marker. You know, you can or you can't, but I'm going to go ahead, and it just helps you see the shapes a little bit differently. And if your permanent marker does not write on the paint, just scribble on a piece of paper until it starts writing. Like this one is kind of half dead, so I'm going to use a different one. So I'm going to just very lightly go in and put my permanent marker down. And the reason I do that is because pencil will, once it gets wet from the paint, it will kind of want to rub off a little bit. And with permanent marker, it's permanent and it's not going to rub off. So you don't have to worry about rubbing off your paint with the paintbrush. So I'm just going in with little basic lines. I'm not real careful about it. I'll just do some little dots for the middle shape there. That's the basic shape. I got a little pencil on my paint where the pencil touched, and I'm just erasing the pencil marks so it doesn't show through in my paint, because I want my next layer is going to be a pearl paint. And I'm going to use some metallics because I want to really make this pretty. So erasing my any pencil that happened to get rubbed off on that pattern. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the White Pearl by DecoArt. This would also be a great time to use that iridescent medium from Michael's. It's their Artist Loft brand, and it's called Iridescent Medium. It is, you know, it's just shimmery, and I use it a lot in my angel paintings. And so that is fabulous if you want to use that too. But I'm just going to use Pearl. And I usually use about 3 or 4 brushes. These are my go-to brushes. It's a flat, bigger brush, a flat, about 1/2 inch. It's about the width of my finger. I've got one that's on an angle that I like to use to get into a little smaller places. And then I have one that comes to a round brush with a point that I can do little fine detail. And I don't like the cheap brushes that kind of look like straw. They're like China brushes. They're real, I don't know, they're just cheap, and you can't paint straight lines with them. So I don't use those at all. So I'm going to go in with my middle-sized brush, and it's a little bit damp from my water. It's not totally like dry. I'm going to get this pearl paint, and I'm just going to go over all the petals very quickly. And what it's going to do is going to put that pretty pink. It's going to be still pink looking, but it's going to put that pretty pearl shimmer over the pink. And so it's going to have a pearlized look, which is going to be really, really pretty. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm going over my permanent marker lines, and it doesn't smear them. It doesn't, you can still see them. So, but what will happen is when I'm finished painting in the shading on the flower, I'm going to use my trusted DecoArt 24 karat gold with the screw-on lid that I'm a big, big fan of. You buy this, it's a DecoArt attachment. You can buy it on my Amazon link under my YouTube videos. You can buy it at Hobby Lobby. That's the only store that carries it that I've seen. But you can unscrew it and put it on any craft bottle of paint. And I love using this 24 karat gold to do my outlining. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to finish up this so it can be dried. And these dry, you know, really kind of quickly. That's why I like to use DecoArt, because I like to kind of paint quickly. And the DecoArt craft paints dry very quickly because they're more fluid. Whereas tube paints that are considered artist grade paints are thicker, and it takes them much longer to dry. So And I have my computer screen pulled up. If anybody has a question, you can definitely type it in there, and I'll try to keep track of the comments if anybody has a comment. I don't even know if my screen is supposed to scroll or what it's doing, so I don't know if I can even see comments. But anyway, okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding shading. And I love their Extreme Sheen metallics. And this is called Pink Tourmaline. And I've got my dog in the background being frisky playing. So if you hear growling or noises, it's my dog. Now he's chasing his tail. Okay, so now I'm going to use my little... you can also get a set of these paintbrushes at Dollar General for about $4 or $5, and they're really good quality, actually. This is a little angled brush. It's on an angle. And so I'm going to put some of this beautiful, it's a berry colored metallic, and I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to use my little picture here for a reference for shading. And so anytime you have a flower, you're going to have the deepest colors towards the center, and underneath each petal, that's going to be naturally where your shadows fall. So I'm just going to start painting in, and I'm just using the corner of my brush, and then I like to take my finger and softly blend. It's super simple. You get paint on your finger, but hey, it's the easiest way that I have found to do it. You can take your paper towel and get it just a little bit damp on the corner, like you squeeze it to make sure it's not drippy. You want it to be damp but not really wet. And you can lightly pounce to blend it. You can do that, but a lot of times I like to just use my finger. I like to be touching my paint. So I'm just going to go kind of at the base of each of these petals here on the top, put in a little paint, and kind of gently blend it with my fingers. And I'm going to go around the tops of the other petals where they naturally would overlap. You just follow the reference photo. You see where the shadows are, and you just follow those shadows at the base of each petal. And that's going to be where one petal overlaps the other petal. I hope that makes sense, because the petals are fanning out, so they're going to be shadowed towards the center of the flower. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to do shading here, and I'm going to try to do this quickly so that I don't have you tied up forever. I just wanted to get on and share a little love, give you something to watch for a little bit, and you can always come back and watch it later too if you want to try to do this at your own pace in your own home. That's why I offer the tutorials that I do, that I charge $35 for on Thinkific, because then I can video them at real time, and there's no rushing. Like I kind of rush on my YouTube videos because people don't want to sit and watch for several hours while you paint on YouTube. They kind of want quicker videos. So I try to edit those down and, make them fast speed and that kind of thing. So if there's any videos, tutorials that you would like to see me do in the future, please comment if there's something you'd like to learn how to paint. I just finished a Flamingo, and we're going to be posting that this evening. It'll go live. I painted a fun flamingo. So see how I'm going from the base of the petal outwards. So the deepest color of the petal is going to be on the inner portion of the petal. And then as it fans out, you're going to see the lighter part of the petal. And I'm not trying to go, these are, it's metallic, so it's a little bit on the transparent side. If you want a little more control of your brush, you stand your brush straight up and you can control it in smaller places. So I'm just kind of going around and adding those little shadows where all those bases of the petals would be, and where they overlap each other, that's going to cast a shadow on the petal that the other petal is laying on top of. Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm so glad y'all are here watching. That makes me feel happy. So I'm just naturally, like, this is a petal that's, it's kind of cupped and it's kind of facing upwards. So I am sorry that my camera is sideways on the in the screen, because it's not turned that way as I'm filming it. It's horizontal when I'm filming, so that's kind of the weird part about it. So I pay attention here, like this petal is coming out from the base, so it's deeper on this side. So I'm just looking at my reference picture, and I'm not trying to make this look really totally real. It's going to be a little bit, you know, make-believe. It's not supposed to be real looking. So I'm just doing the shading and going around and just thinking logically, where do those shadows fall? They're going to be naturally where a petal overlaps another petal. There's going to be where that shadow is, and that's where I'm adding my color. Okay, so I've made it through the first round pretty quickly. And now I just want to go in and I want to add another layer, because like up here it's already dry, it's wet down here. So now I'm going to go back up into the wet area and I'm going to deepen that color a little bit more, and I'm not going to blend as much. I want a few of the brush strokes to kind of show, just to give it a little bit more oomph. So I'm just going in really quickly in the same areas and deepening. And if I do want to tap it, I can with my finger just to softly blend. But sometimes it's fun to see a few brush strokes. You don't always have to see the brush strokes, but you can. And it's still very lovely. So I'm just deepening those pink areas with this metallic paint, which is really, really pretty. And I thought it would be a good accent to this deep red that's in the background. And I'm going to add, you're gonna get to see my thought process as I'm going through this. I'm going to add some metallics onto this acrylic pour very quickly, just to give it a little bit more interest, because it is kind of bland and it's not real interesting. So I'm going to add some of my own colors to it here in a minute, and I'll show you. So I'm trying to do this quick, and I'm hoping you'll learn something valuable from this. And if you do, please share it with me that you learned something, and share your pictures if you try to give it a go. I would love to see somebody else try this and show me what they could do with it. That would be the biggest compliment to me. I'm all about sharing techniques and helping people learn how to become artists, because it's been so satisfying for me and very gratifying and healing, and I want to be able to have other people experience what I've experienced with art. So, you know, if it gets too heavy, I use my finger. And I can just go into areas. If I'm not real sure what it's supposed to be, I can go in and just really deepen it up, make it kind of look like it's in a shadow. So basically, right there, I put two layers of this beautiful pink tourmaline color down. So it's ready. Okay? So I'm going to leave that on my plate, and I've got their teal metallic, which is beautiful. I'm going to put some of that on my plate. And then this 24 karat gold, I've got another bottle here. I'm going to put a little bit of it down on my plate. And I'm just going to think about the background that surrounds it really quickly. And I'm going to use this little slanted brush that's not real big. And I'm going to just say, what are some interesting areas and what are some blah areas? And I'm going to go here and I'm just going to dab. This is what I did with my other one. I'm just going to dab little chunks of metallic paint, kind of in an organic shape, like no straight edges. I don't want it to look like a leaf shape. I'm just kind of doing random little tap, 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 kind of organically with no defined edges. You know, in this gray area where it's kind of like blah, I can add some metallic to it and go over some of that gray area there, but leave that deep red because it's kind of interesting. Okay, so I can just create these shapes with my just by tapping my brush. I'm putting the paint down pretty heavily. It's pretty thick, so I'm doing it heavy so it won't be transparent and so you can't see through it. So I'm going to take it up to the edge of the petals, and so I'm just thinking about areas that I want some metallic prettiness to kind of shine through, and then I can kind of go around these areas with my gold and really accentuate it. My dog is having a conversation with himself here. He's bored. Okay, so I've added those areas. I want something here in this corner which is really, really bland. Totally organic looking, no specific shape. I kind of like this area here. I'm going to go over a little of this yellow, just a little bit of it, very random, and maybe just a little bit on this edge here. Okay, and I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to let that be drying. And then I'm going to, hey Nisa and Rachel and Macy and Melissa, thank you for joining. Okay, now I'm going to go into this beautiful 24 karat gold, and I'm putting a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm going to come in and accentuate just some gold areas. Look how that just sings there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So I'm just going to randomly, and I'm putting this paint on really kind of thickly with the tip of my brush. Just kind of randomly going into areas that just are kind of gray and blah. Okay. Let's stick a little gold here. We need something to... I kind of go around when I'm painting a canvas, and I kind of want a little bit of everything in bits and pieces so that you can get a feel that it's cohesive all the way around. I want to bring out just a little bit around the edge of this lotus right there, just a little bit, and I want to bring out a little bit right there. I don't know if that sparkles much on the camera because the lighting is kind of funky. I'll bring it up and show it to you before I do the final embellishing. So, and I'm adding some here. I dripped a little bit there. So if you drip, you just take your damp paper towel and you can wipe it straight off the canvas. And this canvas, you know, I had some silicone or OGX in it, and I did clean it off just like you would before you seal it. You don't want that oily residue, so I did wash it off with some Dawn dish liquid so that I don't have any residue hanging around. Let's throw just a little bit of gold in the corner there. This is going to be pretty, y'all. This is an 8x10 canvas. Okay, I dripped on my flower there. See, it lifted the paint off there. I did a few drips. And I do want to take my small brush, my round, I think it's a number 3 brush, and I want to put just a little pop of turquoise right kind of in the center of the flower. Right coming out from the petals that were mostly in the middle of the flower, the central part of it. And I'm just dabbing in just a little bit. I'm not trying to make it look like veins, or I'm just dabbing the tip of my paintbrush to put a little color. I want to kind of tie that turquoise into my flower just to give it some life. So I'll bring it in a little closer so you can kind of see it right now. I don't know if you can see it well or not, but that's that. And I was looking to see, this one is berry. It's deeper. So this is another one. I have about every color imaginable of DecoArt's paints, especially their metallics. Ooh, this one. Some of them, if they sit for a while, the paints separate. Hey Tammy, thank you. Thank you everybody. Rachel, everybody. They come out looking like see-through and oily. That's because this has been sitting for a while. That's why it looks that way. So I can even take some of this deeper color here, which is not totally mixed up, so it looks kind of transparent. Let me shake it really good. That looks a little better. So I'm going to take some of that, and I'm going to go in right at where the deepest shadows of the flower would be. The very darkest, like the bottom portion of the flower, where the petals are overlapping and shading each other. I'm going to go ahead and stick that there, just on the underside of some of them. Just naturally, where, looking again at this picture, I see where those deepest pink tones are in my picture, and I'm referring to that as I add my colors. And add in a little bit with that turquoise area there. Again, I'm not trying to make this look photographic like a real flower. I'm just doing a pretty design, and then I'm going to embellish it with that gold, which is going to take it to the next level. So just putting a little bit darker colors in here and there. This was just totally spur of the moment. I thought I want to go live somewhere and paint, and I thought, well, I don't ever do much live stuff on Facebook, so let me try it out on Facebook. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to make that one down here really deep. It's just the tip of one right there. All right. And so I can also take this and I can follow along that deep red and add like a little, I'm putting down a good amount of paint, but it's see-through, but it's on top of that deep red. But it just adds a prettiness, metallic feel to that deep red. I could put in the pink tourmaline if I want to cover up some of the red. It just kind of looks more special to me with the metallic. I'm just kind of following the shapes of the cells. I kind of let the cells kind of determine where I want to add my colors. So there's no rhyme or reason for how I'm doing it. I just kind of follow some shapes, or I make my own shapes up. You know, it's just kind of like the way marble would have veining. You just kind of follow the grooves of the, you know, the cell patterns and the formations. That's why acrylic pours are so much fun to do artwork on, because you've got this really kind of interesting background that is not like super beautiful, but you can turn it into something super beautiful, you know? So let's throw a little chunk of it right around here, just because that's kind of a bland area. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit here. Now, we've done the meat of the painting right in that amount of time. And yes, it is a lotus flower. It was one that I printed out. I just go to Google Images and I'll print it out on my printer, and then I'll cut around the shape to trace on. Okay? So the final step is the embellishing with the gold. Okay. So I'm going to show you this right now before I do any of the detail work with the gold paint and the fine tip writer. So once again, this is a tip that you purchase in Hobby Lobby. I think it's about $5. On Amazon it might be $8 or $9, but then it's delivered to your door. It has a screw-off lid that has a needle inside of it that goes into the needle to keep it from getting stopped up. I always squeeze it out on my plate first to make sure it's coming out good. And because this is metallic, it's going to be on the thicker side, so you really have to squeeze hard. I have arthritis, and sometimes I have to hold it like this to squeeze because my hands hurt. But now if you're using a regular, you know, just like a regular DecoArt color like this, it's more fluid. It's not quite as hard to squeeze the bottle, but the metallics are thicker, so it's going to be a lot harder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, and my hand shakes too, so maybe you don't see that portion in the sped up videos. I'm just going to go around the shapes of my petals. And this is what gives that lovely cloisonne kind of look. I'm not trying to make this realistic looking. I don't have a steady hand. I'm just continually squeezing so it has a nice thick line of paint coming out. And sometimes it will get clogged up, and when it does get clogged up, you stick the needle from the lid back into it, and you just kind of jam it in there a few times back and forth. You can also take these apart and clean it out with a toothpick and warm water. It cleans up really well. You can switch colors and clean it up and switch to another color and do, you know, whatever color you want to use. So all I'm doing is tracing the edges of my petals. I mean, what could be easier than, it's almost like a coloring book. You're just kind of painting in between the lines, and then you're outlining it. See, my hand's starting to hurt, so now I'm going to squeeze it this way. And so this also covers up any of my black permanent marker lines that showed through. This also covers up my black lines that might peek through the paint, which is a good thing. But like I said, I have a very unsteady hand, and it hurts my hand like crazy to squeeze these, especially the metallics, but it's so worth the pain. So I'm almost finished with the flower shape. And then because this is metallic and it's thicker, it's going to dry raised up off the canvas like it is. Now the regular acrylics, they will settle down a little bit more, not all the way flat, but they do lay down flatter than the metallics, but the metallics stay raised up because there's so much pigment in them. They stay raised. So there is the flower, and then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to squeeze in and I'm going to just create kind of what looks like little stamens. So I'm just painting out some lines. Now maybe some overlap each other. And you can put the little tips on the ends of them. This is so much fun to do. So right there is the flower just by itself. And see how as I turn it, you can see the raised effect it has. And you can see the shimmer of the metallics. And I just took an ugly bland pour and did all this on top of it. So now I'm going to go around and I'm going to kind of trace out some of my shapes. I'm not going to try like to do any like crazy kind of detail. I'm just going to create patterns. You know, I can go along the edge of a line and create what looks like a vein. So this is where you just take the license to use the thought process of, you know, how do I want this shape to be? Do I want to follow this line in the pour? I want to accentuate these metallic areas that I've added paint to for sure, just to give it some interest. You could almost say they look like clumps of coral or, you know, something funky like that. So now these turquoisey shapes, I'm going to kind of go around loosely. And I want to make them kind of look like the leaves, even though they're not shaped like leaves. And I'm going to just do vertical lines, horizontal lines, whichever way you want to call it. Sometimes if I don't squeeze enough, you got to go back and re-squeeze. You got to get your pressure right on how much squeezing you do on the bottle with the metallics. So there is one shape that I did with the turquoise color. So we'll come over here and we'll kind of roughly go around this shape a little bit. And thank you, Tammy. I'm not looking at the screen much, so if I don't respond, it's just because I'm trying to get through this quickly so I don't hold you up. But I'm just painting in kind of lines on the diagonal. You can also, I'll do one here. This one I'll do straight out. You know, you can do straight lines that come out from the flower if you want to. So I'll go around this one. And I'm definitely holding the bottle more with a firm grip, because it takes a lot of strength to get this metallic to flow. So this one I might, you know, curve my lines a little bit, but still all going in the same direction. Come over here and do one. I love this fine tip writer. It is so much fun to use. Let's go this way with this. I'm just changing up the directions of my lines. And you really want the paint that you're painting on top of with this tip writer, you want that paint to be dry on the canvas, because if you scrape your needle through it and it's wet, it'll lift the paint off that's on the canvas, and you don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go back around some shapes and outline really quick. So I'm just basically adding interest to my background, because the background was pretty bland. Again, I can follow the lines of some of the paint to create what looks like veining. That just gives it a little bit of extra interest. I'll go ahead and do this area here. And I'm doing it pretty fast. You don't have to be really slow and deliberate with it, unless you're trying to really keep a hold of you know, a specific design or shape. I'm just doing it really kind of randomly. I'm going to turn it around. So just trying to make it look a little bit interesting. So I don't have to do lines in every turquoise. I could add dots. You got to figure out what's creative to you and what you like, and then just go with it. So I'm just putting little dots in some of the spaces. You could trace around some of the cells, make little circles. So you can make the very ordinary look not so ordinary. And this metallic gold is what makes it just really pop. So I'm going to turn it back around. I did miss over here. I wanted to go around this a little bit. You can make shapes in areas that need something. Okay, let's see. You can go back if the paint's still wet, and you can make it more jaggedy if you need to. I'm just looking around to see if there's areas that need some help, you know. So let me bring it up to you and show you what I've done. Oh, I want to add some gold right through here. It's calling my name when I stand up. I can see better. Just drawing little fine lines. Like the other one, I put a border around it. You could do a border if you wanted to. I don't think I'm gonna do a border on this one because it's a smaller piece. But you could totally do a border if you wanted to. It's as creative as you want it to be. So I'm thinking I kind of like this the way it is. Yeah, Michaels does not have this tip. They do not carry it. I've only seen it at Hobby Lobby. You can get it on DecoArt's site, or you can get it on Amazon. Of course, you can get the DecoArt paints at any store, pretty much. Walmart does not have DecoArt. Okay, so I'm just trying to show you the detail. And then this thicker paint that you do with the tip writer, it takes longer to dry because it is thick, so don't put your fingers into the raised areas. But see, it has a little needle inside of the cap, and you put that needle inside of the other needle that you were squeezing out of, and that keeps it sealed up, and it keeps the paint from drying out inside of the needle, which is just really a great idea. And you can unscrew it, clean it off, and put it on you can even put it on an 8-ounce bottle. It's the same size for a 2-ounce or an 8-ounce bottle. It'll fit on either one. So I think I'm going to bring my camera off the stand here and get you out of the shadow, because there we go. So there is a cloisonne lotus painting. Now we're coming down for the really close-up detail. I've got a little something that I dropped onto the canvas. I have to put some more gold paint on top of that. But anyway, so yeah, here's the close-up, and I'm like really close on this. And again, this is just an 8x10. So you see, it's, you know, my hand is as big as the canvas is. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. So this whole tip comes as one piece. Let me show you. Let me put the camera back up here. Let me show you how it works. So if you unscrew it, this is just the lid that unscrews with the needle in it to seal up your paint. Right there. It's got the little needle in it. So this is the regular tip. So this is all one piece. It comes in a little package from DecoArt. This unscrews and it comes off the needle area. I'll put it over here where it's not over a dark area. So this is the needle, and then this unscrews, and you can clean this all out with warm soapy water and a toothpick, and it cleans out nice and easy. You just put a little toothpick in and some warm water and all that paint comes out, and when you're finished cleaning it, you just screw it right back inside the top. And then you put this cap over it, which holds it down nice and tight. And then this goes back on your bottle. And then to seal it up and close up the needle, you put the lid with the needle inside of the needle. And it's sealed up nice and tight. So I've got multiple like I've got one on my white bottle where I use my white to embellish a lot. I've got one on black. And these are also great to do like fine detail, like if you're doing a painting and you want really tiny little fine lines, like on animal portraits, like if I want whiskers, I'll use these for the really fine lines, because I can make a much smaller line with this than I can with a small paintbrush. I have more control. So I love to use these for really fine detail. So I've just accumulated, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these, and I can interchange them when I need to. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Here's the finished painting. And of course, you know, I'm going to try to sell it, and I may even put it in my Etsy shop. I'm going to cover up one area where I have a little drop of something that landed on the gold, and I'll even sign my painting sometimes with this. If I can control it pretty good, I'll sign it in the gold too. Sometimes it shows up pretty well and sometimes it doesn't. So that's kind of chunky looking, but anyway, that is the finished painting. Thank you for watching. I hope it was informative, and maybe it'll give you the courage to try to paint a lotus flower yourself. This makes it really simple because you're not trying to do it realistically, and you're giving it a really kind of fancy, glamorous kind of finished look with that gold finish. And obviously you could use copper, you could use silver. I love the 24 karat gold, but you could use, and you can use any brand of paint. It doesn't have to be DecoArt. You could use folk art, or, you know, whatever brand of paint you wanted to. So I hope you enjoyed it, and please share if you think that anybody that you know of would like to see this, any of your friends. Please share it with them. I would love for you to pass it on and share the love. So I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and that you are creating lots of artwork in your downtime. If you have time to create, I hope you're getting to do that. And if you're not, if you have children with you and you're kind of tied up, you know, hopefully you can have a good time with your kids and enjoy the time with them if they're not driving you crazy. Fortunately, my kids are grown and out of the house, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's me and Greg and Harley, our dog. So that is it. I will see y'all later. Hugs, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye.